I'm keeping an eye on our waiting room right now, and it looks like the attendees are flowing in. So I'll just get started. Hello, everyone. I'm Benjamin Lindsay, managing editor here at Backstage. Thank you for joining us. We have an audience of coming up on 1,000 right now, which is the cap. So we're very excited to have you sitting with us. And of course, we are joined today by Moni Yakim and Anthony Mackie. As you know, this is kind of timed to the new documentary feature film, Creating a Character, the Moni Yakim Legacy, on which Anthony Mackie is an executive producer and also a previous student of Moni Yakim, who is the co-founder of the drama division at the Juilliard School and really just an iconic movement technique instructor. So we're going to be talking all things that. And just you two, thank you so much for joining us. It's such a treat to have your ear for a moment, and glad to see that you're holding up okay, given the extraordinary times we're living in.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I suppose a good place to start is just how did this documentary first all come together? I just had the chance to watch it last night, and it's really such a great peek inside the brains of some industry masters. So how did the whole thing come together for you two?
Well, basically, an ex-student of mine by the name of Mark Olsen, who is also now a teacher at Juilliard, thought that it would be a good idea to record the type of exercises that I do, and to get a little bit more deeper into the method. So he talked to the director of the drama division without my knowledge, and they decided that we should do that. So they got in touch with me and told me that that's what they intend to do. And that's how it all started. It was Mark Olsen's idea.
Well, it's certainly a subject deserving of its own documentary treatment. Anthony, how did you come on as executive producer?
I heard that they were doing a documentary, and Boaz, Moni's amazing director, writer, son, reached out to me and told me that he was doing the film about Moni and asked me to be a part of it. And, you know, I've been studying theater and training since I was 7 years old. So one of the lasting influences, biggest influences on my career, especially at this stage where you get of age and you have to be able to, you know, get your body ready every time you go to work, was Moni's class. The second year of Juilliard, one of the biggest highlights of that year was everybody going into Moni's class. We all talked about it. We all looked forward to it. And, you know, first year you hear, you know, rumors and talks about Moni and who he is, and you never see him. You know, he moves so quietly, and you would see just like a shirt turning a corner or something like that. And then once you get in his class, it was a great experience. I mean, I think the Spanish Inquisition is a thing of legend that everybody will always remember and never forget.
That's great. That's great. And you are executive producing this alongside Jessica Chastain, who is another pupil of Moni's. Just to run down the list here, I mean, this isn't nearly speaking to everyone, but we've got Anthony and Jessica, Oscar Isaac, Meryl Streep, Viola Davis, Patti LuPone, Adam Driver. Really some of the best actors working today have trained under you, Moni. I'm just curious, what does that mean to you to see your pupils go on to such great success in the craft and the industry? It must be pretty gratifying.
It's incredibly gratifying. However, I'd say it's gratifying to me as well when I see people that went into different directions. And when I meet them, they tell me how their training at Juilliard in general, not just with me, helped them in their lives. Mm. So I think it's an education for life. And those that are lucky enough to become household names and that can work actually in the profession consistently, they are lucky. And of course, you cannot do that if you don't have the craft and the talent today. You have to have that. So all of them are exceptionally talented. However, it's at least I feel in my class, it's about teaching them a little bit of what life's obstacles we have to overcome and how to overcome them. And then whatever we choose to be, you know, as you see, I'm trying to move away a little bit from the glamour of it, because there were many, many, many talented people that did not reach that level of fame. But I am extremely excited to see the faces of some of my students on the screen, in the theater. I rush to see them without telling them. I just, it's more than gratifying.
Yeah, certainly, certainly. But I love to hear how the training can be applied in a positive way, even outside the acting space. I think that's so significant. Just for those who are unfamiliar, can you, if you could boil it down, what are kind of the pillars of your approach? What do you think sets it apart from other curriculums that are available out there?
First of all, it is physical. And unlike dance or gymnastics or acrobatics, whatever we do has to have a specific reason, which means if we move a hand, an arm, a head, an eye, why do we do it? If we don't have the reason to do it, we don't do it, which means we have to be as strong in our stillness as well as in our motion, in our movement. And the difference is that it all has to come from within, which means it's not for the aesthetic of the gesture itself. It's not to look good. It's, and as you see, I'm stumbling on my words. It's because I'm a person of physical expression. Mm. So my verbal expression is not as fluent as my physical expression. And that's really the spine of my work, to give a physical expression to whatever we do, which means whatever we feel inside, to be able to express it outwardly, physically.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Anthony, I mean, that's a perfect segue to looking at your body of work. And of course, thinking of something like the Avengers and playing Falcon, that is such a physically demanding role. Do you find yourself pulling on your training in pretty explicit ways when you find yourself on set?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like, you know, one of the things I'll never forget, we were in class and we were coming out one day and we had to do this. Moni said, the only tool an actor has is his body. You have to be able to utilize that to express yourself. And I try and bring that to the forefront of my work every time, especially with the event, because it's so much work and it's so hard, it's physically laboring. And if you don't harness your energy, you know, let go and just throw it out into the ethos and just running around and flailing everywhere, at the end of the day, you're going to be burnt out. You won't be able to do it 20, 25, 30 times, you know, and the thing that I always try to bring to the work is that movement in stillness. Just because you're not moving doesn't mean you aren't moving. You know, there's a certain strength, there's a certain explosion that can come out of stillness. There's there are a lot of words that come out of stillness instead of moving. And that was one of the things in all of the days of the classes I had with Moni. It was almost, I felt like sometimes I felt like I was taking an aerobics class because it was so physically demanding, but mentally I was never tired. And that was one of the things that the class pressed on me. You know, physical exertion does not mean mental exertion. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you'll stand still and not do anything and by the end of the scene, you're emotionally spent. So, you know, it's more so about harnessing your energy and knowing when and where to use it to get the best effect from it.
I love that. And did you know at the time, did it feel like these pillars were pretty formative to what you were going to be doing for the next 20 some odd years?
Absolutely not. when we were in class, I was like, I feel like the biggest idiot of all time. And you know, I'm a pretty coordinated person. You know, I was an athlete in high school, so I was in pretty good shape when I got to school. So for me, it was more so about physical exertion and not so much mental muscle, but physical muscle. And one thing I learned was the technique and the ability of using your mental muscle instead of your physical.
Mm-hmm. Well, Moni,
actually,
yeah.
I'd like to add to it. What's interesting in it is that a lot of people say how demanding this class is and how tiring it is. And I think it is so, not because you can have an hour and a half of dance class that is excruciatingly more demanding physically. However, in this class, you have to engage emotionally, you have to engage psychologically at all times. And that really takes a lot out of you. So if they are exhausted, if they are tired, it's because they were totally emotionally, mentally, psychologically engaged with it constantly. And that's where it creates this kind of, they feel that the demand is so great.
Well, I know that you don't meet with students until, or you don't begin teaching students at Juilliard until that second year. How involved are you in the initial audition process when it comes to taking on undergraduate students who want to be in the program?
Actually, all of us are involved,
Yeah.
all the teachers. Yeah.
That's what I figured. So I'm curious.
All the teachers are involved in it, and it's not a democratic vote, but it's an insight that has being given by all the teachers.
Mm-hmm. So what stands out to you in that audition room when you are considering who's going to be on the roster for the next 4 years? What really makes a prospective student stand out?
When I see that the instincts are right, when I see that there is an impulse alive there, and I do not look for anything polished. So we really like to take people that are more raw, not, yeah, so I look at acting instincts.
Because it is kind of a natural instinct in performance, but then you like it a little raw so that you can structure it and model it over the 4 years.
Even if it's not raw, if people had some experience, but still you can sense that, you know, you try to look over that polish.
Yeah. And I imagine that you assume, or that you feel that this training or training of some kind is essential to long-lasting success in the industry. Has that been, but why do you think that training is especially crucial for actors?
It's because it's a craft. You know, with the talent you can go so far, and suddenly when you are hit with something that you just don't know how to get there because you have no craft, you fall on your face. And when you have the craft, you can fly.
Excellent. Well, Anthony, I'd love to get your thoughts as well. Obviously, you got your BFA training from Juilliard. What did those first years out of school look like for you? Once you had the training and the technique under your belt, obviously finding your footing in the industry is a whole other beast. So what advice would you have for someone who, once they have that training, are pursuing an actual career and making a life in the craft?
Well, I think the craft, I always tell people, and my rule of thumb is this: you have to ask yourself a question and be honest with yourself. do you want to be a working actor or do you want to be a celebrity?
Mm.
And whichever one you want to be, go be that. And don't apologize for it. Because for me, I started on the stage in New York. I mean, we wrote a play at Juilliard, and my friends and I performed it. My friend wrote it, my friend directed it, and we got picked up in our 4th year of Juilliard, and we got to do it off Broadway at New York Theater Workshop. And from that, God rest her soul, Molly Finn saw me in the play and had me audition for 8 Mile.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it was just this. It was this snowball effect of creating work got me bigger work. So in those down times when you're not working, when you're waiting for someone to cast you, you know, the greatest thing you can do for yourself is continue working, create your own work, create your own platform, because that way people will see it and they'll be able to recognize your work. But whatever that platform is, do it, because that's what's going to make you happy. I mean, actors, we're very lucky because we're very few people in the world get to do what they love. And we're the only people from being a 1-year-old to our age now to where we're still playing make-believe. I'm doing the same thing I love to do at 2 years old.
Mm.
You know, so enjoy it. Have fun with it.
Yeah. You actually speak in the documentary really beautifully about how acting is kind of capturing that childlike imagination. A spoon is a sword, I believe you said. Something along those lines. Yeah. You gotta have that switch flipped on to be an actor, certainly. Moni, to turn the table to you, once your students have that training and you send them out into the real world, what is the piece of advice that you leave them with?
Be yourself, trust in yourself, trust in your craft, trust in what you have learned. And don't try to, it's hard. It's hard. I'll tell you why it's hard. Because when you go out, if you don't get a job like for 3 or 4 months, you start to lose confidence in yourself. Mm. You say, with all the craft and all of that, maybe I'm not good enough. However, what my advice to them when they leave, it's exactly what Anthony was saying. It's find a way to continue and practice your craft. Even if you go to a school where you do one scene per week, you keep on with it until the time where you can get a job. And because if not, you really start to fade. And that happened to many, many actors.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Just if there is any kind of advice, is keep practicing in any way possible. Find friends to work with them, go to a school where they teach scene class, evening scene class, and keep on practicing.
Excellent. Well, before we wrap up here, we've been getting a ton of audience questions in, both prior to this interview and also in real time. I'm checking the Q&A box right now. Thank you again for everyone for joining us today. Just wanted to throw a couple of them out there. Jania Greenwood has a question for Anthony. What is the best advice you have for creating the best self-tape and general audition advice?
Be prepared. The best thing I learned in theater school, and one of the things Moni harped on us, we would do a scene and he would just like yell out something, or you never know what's going to happen when you're in the moment. And if you're really truly in the moment and living in that scene, if you go to open the door and that door doesn't open, you have to figure, now you're stuck on stage with egg in your face. So you figure how to get over that obstacle. Theater, live theater and acting is about overcoming obstacles. Mm-hmm. So never get nervous, always be prepared. And because I've been in many auditions where I had to tape and they would ask me to improvise, or they would say, do the scene you want now, do the scene in your own words. So I just always say, be prepared for anything. because you never know what they're looking for and you never know what they're going to throw at you.
Mm.
That's great. That's great. We had a question from Francesca De Pisa, or De Pisa. So apologies if I'm butchering that last name. This one's for Moni. For someone who is considering attending a performing arts school for a master's degree, what would be your advice for starting that research process and finding the right program?
Research. Just try and find out what kind of actors come from different schools and try to see a little bit whether you are connecting with the kind of work that they do, and channel yourself to this school that you think you have the greatest inclination towards.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And we got a question here for Anthony from Quinn Alexis. Anthony, could you talk about what goes into being an executive producer and what the transition from acting to producing looked like for you?
Well, executive producer and producer, I'll say this, executive producer is more so just once the project is formulated and they're putting the project together, you get to add on to the project and give a little bit of input and, you know, give a little bit of feedback to the project and put your personal taste on it. Producing is interesting because everyone has taste. Mm-hmm. And always people like because your taste, believe it or not, has a lot, you know, and, you know, creating, I always say create content, you know, stay developing, stay writing, because when you get into produce, it's very different because in acting, you're given the script and you're told to, you know, go ahead and do your thing. But in producing, you have say and you have to create those characters and those words in that world and make sure it's real. So they go hand in hand, because I think actors make the best producers because we have the script analysis training, we have the training, we have all of that training to be able to put into those characters and make them three-dimensional.
Yeah, you have the taste, to say the least. Well, as a final question for you, I'd love if you could leave us, obviously this interview and this documentary, we're living in pretty extraordinary times right now. The industry is at a standstill. Moni, you are teaching your courses at Juilliard via Zoom. This is a very strange time for everyone. Is there anything that you'd like to leave us with in terms of how we as artists, we as performers can get through this together?
I told you at the beginning of the discussion, don't go too deep. I'm not in the mood for it.
Fair. If you'd like to leave it there, we can leave it there.
But as far as Zoom, honestly, I think I personally hate it. I do not like it because I feel that actors have to be together, take from each other, breathe together, sense each other. And I feel that Zoom is some kind of a release, but really I'm looking forward to be in the room with other people.
Yeah, certainly. Anthony, anything you'd like to add to round us out here?
Take classes. To all the actors who are on here watching and listening, you want to be bad in class. You don't want to be bad on film or on stage. So when you're in class, take chances, be as bad as you can be. Try to do a Scottish accent and suck at it in class. Don't do it on film. The best thing about class is you can be bad and only maybe 20 people will know. If you're bad on film, you're bad forever.
Right. I love that. That's a nice cap to this interview, certainly. I'm glad to see that both of you are in good health, taking care of yourself. Congratulations on this film. A reminder to our audience today that is creating a character, the Moni Yakim Legacy, available on video on demand this Friday, June 19th. Thank you both so much for joining us, and we'll be in touch. This is a great little chat, and I appreciate your time. So
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Love you, Moni, man. Good to see you.
Great seeing you, Anthony.
Have a good one.
bye-bye.